You?
Not much. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm just looking at.
People who like this is you know trans people and people of color and or something on you. And then for dinner, it was like maybe 50, and the fuel was like
Did you?
I don't really know. I didn't pay for it. Is
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
was
trying to
about to
get
say.
at. Is that I went on a stealing spree and I got all like $250 on this shit. Like I just walked out with it in my arms because Mac is no longer a co-op. So I was like, well, now you're a corporation, so it's fair game.
Mhm.
And how I stole it was I would walk out with it in my hand, but I'd be holding another receipt and I would be talking on the phone. And so then they would think that I was just a busy girl who had just paid for her items and wouldn't even think to stop me, even though there's security at that location. Um, yeah, and I went back several times. I went like 3 times in one weekend. I was like, when are they going to catch me? Because I keep coming and stealing all their shit. They didn't catch me. So yeah, I use that to cook. For breakfast, I'll have like eggs and like oatmeal because you can get those little packets and like whatever veggies. Like I would go grocery shopping probably every like 1 or 2 days and then just like load up a little bag on the back of my bike. And that would be like my supply for that little while. And yeah, I'd have like fruits and veggies, and lunch I'd usually have like a sandwich of some kind. You get like buns from the grocery store or whatever. You always have peanut butter or something on you. And then for dinner, easy things are just like, I don't know, like if you really don't want to spend money and just like want to keep it moving, you can like use like instant noodles or like instant rice or like soup or um yeah, like make little salads and just like on the road type food.
Mhm. Okay, well
Yeah,
that's
I
good to
wasn't doing
know.
any like major cooking. I was like mostly like heating a lot of stuff up.
hmm
But like you could like I did carry like cooking oil and like some spices with me.
If people wanna, you have a website. If people wanna like get a tutorial on how to bike across the country, like you have an email.
I have an email. Yeah, put my email. I actually don't have a website. That
Oh,
like
you don't have
details
a
anything
website
about the trip.
anymore?
No, I have a website. I have a website, but it's just not related to the trip. I was gonna make one about the trip, but then I didn't.
I don't remember your email.
It's my name.
Oh, okay.
It's twoey.gray@gmail.com. So yeah, honestly, anyone message me and I can even show you like my financials. Like I had a very detailed budget of like what I ended up spending. I think I spent to start like $1,700 on like buying my bike and my tent and all this shit that like the grant that I got like entirely covered. So that was pretty
hmm
sick. And then on the trip itself, I spent like $2,000 on like, and that includes like all my souvenirs, all my random excursions, and like,
hmm
like museums and this and that or whatever.
And I think one of the things you've been saying this entire time is like literally anyone can do this.
Yeah. And like, I don't want to say literally anyone, like,
Okay.
obviously there are like fundamentally like barriers I do not experience as a white woman, although I
hmm
do experience some barriers as a woman. Case in point, the times I had to run away from people. And like, but I also don't want to like warn people that it is impossible to do something like this if you're like, you know, a person of color or like trans or queer or like, I don't know, like visibly queer. I mean, because like people aren't reading me as queer. Um, yeah, I do know friends who are like, you know, trans people and people of color and indigenous people who are like
Well,
doing
I was
this.
trying to give maybe a little bit more of a hopeful message, but if we do have to qualify it, then yeah,
No, that's
don't
what I'm saying. No, but that's what I'm saying is that like it is possible. I'm not
don't.
the best expert to speak to like what that experience would be differently, but I know people who are doing it.
hmm
So one of the things I learned from this trip is that like not to ask for advice from people who haven't done it, and it meaning anything. Like so many people try to tell me like Tui for you as a woman, like this is actually
Oh, fuck.
impossible. Or are you good?
Yeah, I realized my fan has been on this whole time, fucking up the audio, and I tried to turn it off and it fell over. But that's
No.
fine. He's okay.
Okay.
He's
I'm
just a little
sorry.
guy. He looks like Kirby. He's got
Oh,
two
cute.
legs.
Yeah. No, but I genuinely do mean a hopeful note that like a lot of people told me like Tui for you as a woman, it is impossible and unsafe. And those are people who had never done it. And then I met a bunch of women who had done it. And they're like, actually, it's fine. And you'll be okay. And likewise, meeting people from like you know, other lived experiences who were like, yeah, I was also told it was impossible, and here I am. And meeting people who are doing things that are way more adventurous than what I was doing. Like, I met a couple, I think I told you about them, who biked around South America for 14 months, including in places where like they did not speak the language. And, you know, there wasn't just like a grocery store every 100 kilometers type thing. And they were old too. They were in their 70s, and they're like, yeah, that's fine and normal. I met a guy on this trip who hitchhiked around the world for 3 years with like, he had an EU passport. So it was punctuated by him like taking stints to basically like to hustle more money to continue hitchhiking. But like, yeah, he was like hitchhiking like all over the world. Like, you know, like Syria and Tunisia and Egypt, which people say is like, that's way too unsafe to like do. And he's just like, but then how did I do it? Because I did it. It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all possible.
Yeah. And he's Tunisian as well. So I guess he had an advantage there about other places. Mm-hmm. And he was, yeah, I think that this is far more possible than many people imagine.
So we left off in PEI after the Anne of Green Gables musical.
Yeah, I left PEI, and then I slept on the beach as I was leaving PEI to take the ferry down the other end of the island. And yeah, the beach I found out about by like 2 random tourists who I met. And then all of a sudden, I was in Nova Scotia. I'll make a final note about PEI before I leave that place. 2 things that are famous about it. One, the dirt is red in PEI because of the iron content of the soil. Nice. So my bike, my shoes, my everything was like a little bit stained red. It was really cool. Also in a lot of like Mi'kmaq history, there are a lot of stories about Glooskap, who's basically like the culture hero and like someone who's like a powerful figure. And like a lot of retellings, and Glooskap's favorite island is in Mi'kmaq is Prince Edward Island. They call it like the mainland is like his bed, and Prince Edward Island is like his pillow.
Cool.
Yeah. So then I got to Nova Scotia, and I had some just like whatever times where I just slept in like random empty lots, and like I slept off the coast of a McDonald's one night, which actually turned out to be fire because I had the poopies. So I had to use that McDonald's quite a bit that night. So I was like, I'm so actually pumped that I'm not in the woods right now. And also I can go to the convenience store and steal whatever I need and then bring it back with me to my tent at any time. So that was cool. And then I got to one of my favorite places in the country, which was called Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia. It is in the county of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, which people will know as the home of the Blue Nose. The Blue Nose is Canada's most famous sailing ship. It is on the dime, the 10-cent coin. You can visit the Blue Nose in Lunenburg, which is the adjacent town to Mahone Bay. And I did visit the Blue Nose. The Blue Nose 2, it's a replica of the original Blue Nose. In Mahone Bay, I stayed with these 2 tall ship sailors. I met on warm showers named Rafiq and Inbal. And they were so cool. Rafiq was the person who hitchhiked around for 3 years doing whatever. Inbal's friends are more like train hoppers and stuff like that. And like we talked about train hopping for a long time. And like basically you can only train hop for so long. Like everyone retires from it because you risk your life every single time. But like hitchhiking by comparison is not that deep and it's pretty normal. And I asked Rafiq, like, did you have any problems hitchhiking? And he was like, no. Like I did it for 3 years, it was fine. But he did have some problems, but he just didn't see them as that deep. He's like, yeah, one time I was in Iran and like my driver like lit up a camping stove inside the car as it was moving and then started heating up opium on the camping stove and then like smoking it as he was driving me.
See, I was about to jump in and be like, oh, that's how you get fucking CO2 poisoning.
Yeah.
So and then you brought opium into the equation. I was like, oh.
Yeah, so he was like smoking opium while driving. And yeah, and then Rafiq was like, it wasn't until I got out of the car that I realized like, actually that was really unsafe. And they did not speak the same language, right? So this is just all happening and like Rafiq's just kind of like seeing what's going on. But yeah, he was like, yeah, afterwards I thought about that and I was like, And there was like, a few other stories he mentioned that were kind of like that, but it's whatever. Yeah, he's like, it's fine. And Inbal was like, yeah, I have a lot of friends who are just whatever about it. And I was like, true. And they're also, I didn't know anything about tall ship sailing as a subculture. But basically, like when you see these tall, like wooden pirate ships, there are like people who run them, obviously, and there's the people who are like the sailmakers and like the captains and stuff, and like the chef who are like kind of integral, like paid people with a skill. And then there's a lot of deckhands who they just need like people. And Inbal found out about tall ship sailing when she was working at a cafe in Manhattan for a period of time that happened to be a weird place in the financial district where like boats docked like in the middle of this financial district next to this cafe. And she like this ship docked there and the crew became her like regulars. And then they were like, listen, Inbal, like we're going on a voyage across the Atlantic and like we're kind of just bringing people along based on vibes, because like anyone can learn the deckhand skills, but you live in really close quarters for like a month and you really have to just like the people that you're around and think that they're competent and good. And so like if you want to come on this voyage, just come. And Inbal was just like, shit, okay, and did this voyage across the Atlantic with them and continued tall ship sailing, met Rafik on one of these tall ships. They fell in love, and then the pandemic happened and they're like, okay, well, we have kind of like freedom to move wherever we want. Where should we move? And neither of them are from Mahone Bay, but they're like, wouldn't it be wild if we moved to Mahone Bay, which was the place that one of their tall ships docked? It was their home port. So they ended up there. It was really cute. I stayed in their bunkie and visited Lunenburg, which is also famous for like some really cute, colorful houses and architecture. It's also the setting of the Book of Negroes by Lawrence Hill. So it's like, you know, pretty important in Canadian history as well. Although that's a fictional account. That's two separate thoughts. When I was in Mahone Bay one night, I like wandered down to the municipal docks because I saw these big wooden ships that I learned were called schooners. And I heard these people playing like Nova Scotia ass music on the boat, like it was like a 4-piece band with like a fiddle, and they're like playing these like sailing songs, and they're really good. So I was listening to it. I was like, okay, this is the culture out here. Like people get on their boats, they start playing their asses off. Everybody's like hanging out on their boats, and this guy comes and talks to me. He's like, yeah, actually this like 4-piece band is playing like a big show coming up. They're actually like classically trained, but like they decided to practice here on the boats tonight because it's our racing week for these schooners. And as I'm talking to more people, I realized like one of the guys there is the former captain of the Blue Nose, which is like a pretty big deal. And he's just like, he gave me a dime. He was just like, I have something to tell you. Like, I'm the former captain, and like your journey is so cool. Not many people from Ontario, because they don't like Toronto, earn a dime from me, but here's my lucky dime, and you get it from me. The only rule is you can't spend it. I was like, I won't spend it, sir. And through talking to him and the other people, they were like, you have to come to our sailing race tomorrow. Pick any of us and you can just come on our boat and be our crew. I was like, that sounds sick. So the next day I went to the docks again and I got on this boat. No one who I knew from the previous night was there. I was on a boat with these randoms named like Jesse and I forget what the other guys did. Old guy. And I got on their fat ass boat. It was called the Wawa Loon. So this is also, I learned, a very famous Canadian boat because it was the last one built it was the last fishing schooner built in Atlantic Canada. And it was built on Tancook Island, which apparently was a very sought after boat design. And it's also significant because the water it was built in continues to be the water that it sails in, which is unique and like special to the history. It was like a 76-year-old boat. And it was the only boat in the race. All the other schooners were racing schooners. This one was a fishing schooner. So it was never built to race. It was built to haul fish and cabbages.
Nice.
Yeah. So because there was some sort of technical error with like the starting boat, mechanical error, a bunch of the crew that was going to be on our ship, which had 4 or 5 sails, ended up going to fix that boat. So our crew like was breaking the glass ceiling for some reason. It was like the one guy, the old guy being the skipper, and then like me and 2 other women who were like the crew, and they had me on the main sail. Like they actually needed me. So it's good that I was there because they lost their crew. And yeah, I had to control the sail. I've never sailed in my life. And the guy would just be like, Twoey, pull the rope. Twoey, let go of the rope. It was like so cool. The race was like 4 hours long. I thought we came dead last. I didn't really know what was happening. But apparently later I learned that because of like some technicality of the size of our boat and like some handicap, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but that's what they call it, to be applied, that like we came first. I was like, what are you talking about? That's wild. We won? That makes no sense. That's ridiculous.
Did you get a medal?
Came back to the they have a trophy, but they just put the boat's name on it. But you can look up the Wawa Loon on like Google. There's a CBC article about it. It's WAWALOON.
Oh, exactly how it sounds.
Yeah, and it'll have a picture of the same guy, Harley, who was the skipper when I was there, the captain, whatever. Also, I learned, here's a little secret I learned. The captain of the Blue Nose that I met, he's actually a disgraced captain of the Blue Nose because he crashed it. He crashed the Blue Nose, which is a big deal. And apparently it wasn't just like one like simple error. Like he just like he went rogue on the boat one day, basically. And he like wasn't looking at the instruments, like wouldn't take any of the crew's like advice. Like he just like, and they fired him kind of, but then other articles make it seem like he just continued working there. So I'm not really sure what it was, but I know that one ominous CBC article was like, the crash was preventable. It seems the captain went rogue. The Blue Nose will be resuming on Monday under a new captain. Just strange. And then a few months later, there was like a protest on the Blue Nose. Anyways, all this to say, I had a very extremely Nova Scotia time in Nova Scotia because I showed up and I was immediately in like the sailing world with like Fiddle Town. And that was super cool. And then my crewmate on that boat was like, hey, do you have anywhere you're staying tomorrow night? Because you should stay on my boat in Chester, which is this is a big tourist town for Americans. I had never heard of Chester. But yeah, she had an amazing boat there too. So I had to get in a rowboat and like row out to this fat sailboat and then got in there, and it was so cool. It was like my personal floating hotel. It was incredible. I slept on the top of the boat with like all these shooting stars. It was like so nice. And that was my last night before I did my final stretch of the journey, which took me to Peggy's Cove. But last thing I'll say about the boats is that people are actually so into boat pronouns. Like not one person called any boat it. And I noticed that because the way I was talking, I was just like, oh yeah, like where do you park it or whatever. They're like, we park her on the docks.
You were the one. Like you're misgendering the boats now.
I was misgendering the boats. Yeah, literally, and I didn't even realize it.
Were there any boy boats? Were there he, hims, or theys?
No, all the boats are she, hers.
Okay.
Like 100% of the boats are she, hers, and they never slip. These people are like they're true. Like they're respectful of the boat. I thought that was so cool. I'm like, I hope you do that for trans people, like in real life, because I have a feeling you don't. But anyways, maybe they do. Maybe. Like some of these old men, I'm like, keep it up. Yeah, so I slept on that boat, and then the next day I woke up and it was my big day. I was trying to go to my final destination, Peggy's Cove, and slap that thing on the ass, and that will signify the end of my journey. And I got on the road, rowed to the shore, first of all, my rowboat, and then took a shower at the marina, and then got on the road, rowed all day towards Peggy's Cove Lighthouse, and like the hour before I'm supposed to get there, lightning is exploding all around me. I'm like, oh no, it's dry lightning. So there's like thunder and like spikes of lightning, but there's no rain. And I'm like, this isn't good. So I start biking my ass off trying to like outrun the storm. And this only took me so far. And eventually the sky just like opened up and I had to take cover. So I hit at this random Legion, which for international listeners is like a veterans hall. Like we have veterans halls in every small town in so-called Canada. So I just like opened the door dripping wet. I was like, can I stay here like with you veterans for a while? Cause I like, I'm trying to get to Peggy's Cove. It's kind of my big day. It's my hero's journey. And they're like, yeah, man, hang out. They gave me like dry clothes. And then this lady like made me a turkey sandwich, and this is not on the menu of the Legion bar, by the way. They don't serve food. She was making herself a turkey sandwich and then made me one too, and then another one for the road. And I hid at the Legion for like an hour and a half while I waited for this massive dramatic rainstorm to finish interrupting my big day. And then when the rain was done, I was like, it's time. I gotta do it. Got on the road. I continued. And I biked. And I came up over this hill, and I saw the lighthouse. I was like, oh my God. And I let out 3 very sexy and climactic, tears. And then I back as fast as I could. I pulled up to Peggy's Cove. The lighthouse was right there, like they said it would be. And I busted into tears. I sobbed ass at that lighthouse because I was so proud of myself. I was like, I did it. And I loved it. I stood in the water for like 25 minutes, like bone still, like Squidward, watching the sun disappear into the water, and saw this glorious pink sunset at Peggy's Cove. And I was so, so happy. And that was my hero's journey.
Oh, yeah.
Then I had the victory lap in Halifax.
What was your victory lap in Halifax? Is this
just after that, I slept at Peggy's Cove. I had a horrible nightmare when I was sleeping at Peggy's Cove too. I just like hid my tent behind like the visitor center, but I wasn't really supposed to be there. And then I had a nightmare that this demon sucked out my soul through my asshole.
I think
like they opened up my butt cheeks. Really?
I'm on Google Maps right now, and there's a man with a very long tube just sucking up the water.
Oh, okay. Because that's
straw.
Because my demon was woman.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's a different guy. But maybe they know each other.
It's probably a different demon. Yeah, they probably know each other. Yeah, it was like actually, it was one of the scariest dreams of my life I had at Peggy's Cove, so I kind of got scared of it. And then I biked away to Halifax, where I stayed with my childhood friend and went to the club. I went dancing with these randoms. I found these random people swing and blues dancing at the port. And then I danced with them for a while, and then I went out to drinks with them. That was really fun. And then, my partner came and met me in Halifax. And then my parents came and met me in Halifax because they wanted a vacation. So they were like, let's go see Twoey. So we all hung out in Halifax. It was so cool.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to talk about the world's biggest LARP also? Was that part of your hero's journey, or?
Yeah, that was on the way home. Okay, I was hoping you would ask about that. So,
okay. Yeah, well, I'm asking now because it was super cool.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. So this is what happened on the way home. So my partner was visiting his family in St. John, New Brunswick, and kind of was just chilling there, waiting for me to be ready to be picked up from soccer practice. And when I was, he drove to Halifax, picked me up, and then we went back to St. John for a while. In St. John, we visited an abandoned zoo that he went to as a kid, which is super cool because we just got to like hang out in the jaguar cages, and the zoo had been like reclaimed by the animals in like a super cool, like we were like honestly decolonization 1 at that moment because like the beavers had dammed up.
Sorry, where was this zoo?
It's called Cherrybrook Zoo in St. John, New Brunswick. The zoo closed under questionable circumstances. There was a long protest and investigation into the neglect / possible murder of 10 guinea pigs that inhabited the zoo. And a snow leopard died there. And because of the guinea pig scandal, there was speculation that there was like a whole Facebook group that was like, shut down Cherrybrook Zoo, animal cruelty. And not just because of putting animals in cages, but people were speculating like they feed the snow leopard restaurant scraps and stuff like that. And there was also like accusations of financial mismanagement. So when it closed during the pandemic and it cited like effects of the pandemic and on like, tourism and stuff like that as like the reason people were like, I know the truth. So it's hard to say. And there was also some fear that like when the zoo closed, the animals would have to be euthanized because of the pandemic having restrictions on travel and stuff. Like you can't really ship a tiger during quarantine. So they were just like, we just got to kill all the tigers. And so that was a whole fiasco. I don't really know where the animals are, but they're not there anymore. Just the zoo is there. So the jaguar cages are there. Beavers have dammed up the pond. There are deers standing where the lions once stood. There was a heron on top of like the information plaque. And also this zoo had a really creepy section, or used to have a really creepy section that was just a garden, like that was a memorial walk to extinct animals. So there would be like statues, like eerie statues of like animals that are no longer with us. But we didn't see any of the statues there. We went to another abandoned place called Partridge Island, which I would really recommend if you are in St. John, New Brunswick. Partridge Island, there's so much history there, I can't even get into it. I just can't believe that this island is still abandoned and accessible because it's like it's a national heritage site. So this island is like, it's only accessible by this 30-minute breakwater, like these like piles of rocks that like, it takes 30 minutes to get across, and it's illegal to cross it. So like the Coast Guard don't let them see you, but we didn't get seen, and apparently kids go there all the time, so it's probably fine. It has like abandoned, it has this 30-foot Celtic cross that's so like spectral and eerie. That's like a memorial to like Irish immigrants and like the potato famine. Basically what this island was first it was a military fort and a quarantine island. So when new like immigrants came to so-called Canada, they would quarantine them at this island for like typhoid and cholera and all those things, and process them on this hospital that was there. So there's like remnants of that there. And as this is happening, there's also like wars and shit going on. So like there's like remnants of like artillery and like where guns used to be, and there's underground tunnels where they stored like their cannonballs and shit. Like, and it's the site of the world's first steam foghorn because it was a really important like navigation island at some time. And apparently like 600 people are buried on that island, like different immigrants who like died at that hospital and like, or didn't make it. And so there's this like cemetery that's all like decrepit. There's a lighthouse. There's so many buildings that we visited. We were just like, when we saw the underground tunnels, we were like, bro, what is this place? It was wild. I just couldn't believe it was abandoned. Like, what are they doing? So that was really cool. Then we left St. John. After we went to Partridge Island, actually. No, after we left Cherrybrook Zoo. It was like 7 p.m. And we were thinking of going to New York City on our way home to Toronto, but the time really wasn't working out. And then I remembered back in the backs of my mind that I had heard about this LARP that takes place in rural Quebec. And I was like, what if it's now? Because I knew it happened in August. So I looked it up and I'm like, Toby, the biggest, North America's biggest LARP and one of the largest LARPs in the world is having their grand battle tomorrow.
What's the name of it?
It's called Bicoline. Bicolline. And I'm like, we have to go, but it's 8 hours away by drive. So at 7 p.m., we're just like, sorry, everyone. Like, we're going to drive through the night to get to this LARP. Peace. After dinner, we had to go to Value Village also because we didn't have costumes, and decorum is really important. Like, you're not allowed to wear shoes, like
Holy
running
shit.
shoes.
Sorry, I'm seeing photos from this for the first time.
Yeah, man, it's like actually ridiculous. Like, okay, so yeah, they have like, you're not even allowed to wear a watch. Like, you're not allowed to use a phone. So we had to go to the Value Village, and I stole a bunch of shit, like leather sandals. I wore like a dress that I already have because I wear like old timey things. Toby wore his grandmother's like polar fleece embroidered sweater as like a tunic because that's all he had, and bought like these leather sandals and like a sash. I was like, okay, this is our costumes because like you actually are not allowed in without costumes. And so we got there, we drove all the way through the night. We drove past this weird ass McDonald's in like Woodstock, New Brunswick, or I don't know where it was, but the McDonald's is the most chaotic place I've ever seen in my life. Like, a little kid came in and they gave him like the tiniest ice cream cone, and we're like, don't tell anyone we gave you this. And like said to me, then Toby, like, never tell anyone, we're not supposed to give these ice creams. And then a customer went to the front desk and was like, hey, can someone give me new fries? Because my fries are like really burnt. And the employee looked inside the fries and was like, bro, what? And started laughing her ass off and started calling the other employees like, look, come look at these fries. And then literally said to the kid, who gave you these fries? They hate you. Because the fries were just like unbelievably burnt. And then this woman, as this is happening, comes up. She's like, hey, I came here this morning and I ordered a burger with extra onions, and I got my burger and there was no onions. And then the manager comes up and is like, okay, so when? And she was like, this morning. And he was like, no, when did I give a fuck?
We're not even like this is the prequel to the world's biggest LARP.
I'm not even at the LARP. We're trying to get to the LARP.
Trying to get to the LARP.
Yeah, we're trying to get to the war, and there's a war inside the Woodstock, New Brunswick McDonald's. I mean, and then the manager's just like, the woman gets mad and leaves, and the manager starts saying out loud, you think I care? You think I care about this McDonald's? I don't even want to be in Woodstock. Never wanted to be in New Brunswick or whatever. It's just like monologuing as like Spy Kids 1 is playing on the TV, and me and Toby are like in our garb. Like, he's wearing a tunic. By the way, this tunic is like it is a sweater. Like everything's you can see his panty underneath it. Like it's a little bit short. So it's worrisome. And then we didn't make it. So we had to camp in the woods. And you might remember earlier in my hero's journey, I slept at this like observatory in like the woods for like 2 days. And so we just went back there in St. Louis de Haha. We were back in St. Louis de Haha, creepy town where you can't drink the water. And we woke up super early and rushed to the LARP. We get to the front and we're like, hey, we're here. We want our tickets. She's like, oh, well, 1 day tickets was yesterday. You can't just like buy a 1 day ticket today. And we're like, we drove 8 hours through the night to get here from New Brunswick, please. Can we come? And she was like, okay, I'll let you come. But I'm going to tell you, all the shops are probably closed. And the battle, there's not really a place for you to spectate it. And it's probably going to be a shit day for you. And we were like, okay, we don't care. And then she was like, okay, here's your game coins. They're called Solar. And here's your population card. It's extremely valuable. Trust no one, because people in this world are going to make you think they're your friends, and they're going to ply you with alcohol and camaraderie, but they actually just want your Solar and your population cards. We're like, got it. Trust no one. It's like comical as we like turn away from the ticket booth. This person's like, hello, in English. And Toby's like, we don't want any, thinking this person's trying to like steal our things. And the person's like, no, I don't want your Solar or your population card. I heard that you're new and like, welcome to our world. Like, this is our LARP. This is a 5,000 person LARP. This is like huge. And they're like, oh, you're trying to go to the battle? The deployment's in a little while. So like, just follow me. I'll take you like on a little tour, and like, I'll take you to where the deployment area is. So we walk with them, and they're like, this is like the new town. This is like where the furrier is. This is the tavern. This is like the this and the that or whatever.
There's a furry area?
No, not furry area. Furrier, like a person who sells furs.
Oh, okay. I see.
Although there were furries.
Nice.
But they weren't in fursuits. They were just like wearing tails, and you could tell that they were like flying to each other. So they take us all the way to like across the bridge where like the battle deployment zone is, and they're like, actually, do you want to come to me to my guild, because our guild has like our setup over here. And so we're like, oh, okay, sure. So they take us to their Viking guild, and we sit down, and they're like, hey, you guys look new. And they look at Toby and they're like, you're gonna be so hot in that polar fleece thing. Come with me. And Toby disappears inside of a tent, and like a 90s movie, like, you know, personal stylist montage, he comes out of the tent in a completely different outfit. They put him in a new tunic, new shoes, new sash. He's got a helmet on, a metal helmet. And they're like, this will serve you better, bro. And he's like, gee, thanks, guys. And they're like, guys, are you battling? And we're like, oh, no, we don't know anything about LARP. And they're like, we need you to battle. We're outnumbered by 500. There's going to be 2,000 people in this war that's starting almost immediately. And we're like, oh my God, what do we do? And they like give us like a 1-2 on the rules. And then they hand Toby a foam sword and spear, which none of these weapons look foam, by the way. They look real. And this fat ass shield. And they hand me a bow and arrow. And they give me like a 10-minute tutorial on how, and I shoot all the members of my Viking clan now. And they're like, she's ready. And then all you hear is like, doo, 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 doo. And they're like, go to deployment. The battle's now. And I'm like, holy shit. Ah! So I like rush down to the bridge, and there's like armies coming through, and they're like, and they're like doing rituals that they always do. They're marching their asses off. They're very intimidating. And there's people in like full knight armor. There's people in chainmail, people in like, you know, all kinds of like battle garb. There's battle bards who are like, doo, 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 like the whole battle. And there's like witches who are like casting spells. There's healers, like, and there's monsters, literally monsters you just have to like drop your weapons and run away from, because like anything they do kills you basically. Like if you get touched by a monster, you're done. And there's also like artillery, like there's people with like actual cannons that are like firing like trebuchets, but they're just firing like dodgeballs and stuff. But yeah, the battle starts, and I start just like, I was really happy to be an archer, because it meant that I didn't have to like, I had no armor, so it was like a huge target if I had been in there battling with a sword. So I just stood to the side and like sniped people. And this battle also, keep in mind, this is rural Quebec this is happening in. So there's like English and French happening on the battlefield, which is really fun because one big thing we kept hearing was le backstab, le backstab, which is like when like the enemy like somehow gets behind like enemy lines and starts like secretly like slashing like everybody and they don't see or whatever, like le backstab or whatever. And it's just so cool and fun. The first battle was fought like around this fort over like ownership of the fort or whatever. And there's shield walls that are like 50 guys thick. And they're all grunting and groaning. It's real battle. Like some of these people also like take this LARP so seriously that when they die, they don't even go to the respawn zone. Like they just lay there dramatically dead. I'm like, bro, go to the respawn. Like we need you to fight. But they just want like, they're there for the role play. Everyone's there for a different reason. Not everyone's actually there to like, because the battle's their main thing. Like I said, it's 5,000 people LARP. And the grand battle is only like the last one day, and that's 2,000 of those people. So the other 3,000 people are doing something else in like the universe that they've created. Yeah, that was ridiculous. And then in the second battle, it was fought in the actual woods. So I could barely like actually fight because there's trees in the way. I couldn't shoot my arrows. So that was kind of scary. And I also like came out from a bush and like the angel of death was standing over me, which was like this 9-foot tall, white, demonic, like winged thing. And there was like a tree monster who was like on stilts. It was just like obscene. I was like, this is too much. So yeah, we lost the battle a lot, but again, we were outnumbered by 500. And then we went back to the Vikings. Oh no, then we went to go just like explore the world. And I can't even describe this place. If you're looking at images right now, maybe just show those or put in like Bicoline architecture because this place has been running for 25 years. And so people have like poured a lot of money into this LARP. Again, it's in rural Quebec. So there's like, it's a permanent fixture location. This is not like a flat festival land that they like take up once a year. Like people have put hundreds of thousands of dollars into building their settlement on land that they lease there because Bicoline is like their life for the rest of the year. And people in our guild, which was English speaking, were like coming from the States and like Denmark and like other places in Europe because they're like, this is a really important LARP. And like I come here every year. So yeah, it was like the you know, you'd be going through like valleys and there'd be like a wizard tower and like the traveling caravans and like the gnome town and like all these different like it took 30 minutes to walk from one end of this property to the other. Like my jaw was on the ground. It was like way more immersive than any Disney World could ever be. And there'd be like a horse-drawn carriage like picking up the garbage while like someone's like fire bending with like spinning toy and there's like kids like stabbing each other with like things and like a weird acrobat. Like it's just like I was not even knowing what I was looking at. So we finally got back to our Viking thing after exploring everything. And Wolfram, like one of our older guys in the Viking guild, was like, okay guys, after we had done like our shanties on the banjo for the night, was like, we got a lot of exclusive invites to parties tonight because there's so much history too of all these different like guilds and like who's friends and who's foes and like who's like popular and unpopular. And so he's like, you're gonna love this. We got an invite to party with the elves and the fae. Oh, also there's so many stoners here, I should say. Wednesday in this place is called Mushredi because it's a mix on mushrooms and mercredi, which means Wednesday. Because on Wednesday in this festival, it's a week long, everyone just takes mushrooms and goes to this fairy fae ceremony where you can like it's called the heritage ceremony. So you can either go there and like honor your own heritage, or if your heritage sucks and like your family is like trash, then you can leave behind your heritage and take up fae heritage and become one of them. So everyone just trips balls and like has this fairy blast. And so they're like, yeah, we're going to go, you got an invite to go hang with the elves and the fae, who everyone wants to hang with. But you've also got an invite to party with the Romans and the Bastard Sons, which is another English speaking Viking guild. And they're like, and there's the concert at the tavern tonight. What are we going to do, you guys? We got so many places to be. So we're like, tonight's on the town. And you're not allowed flashlights either. So it's either like all real or simulated candlelight. So there's one person in our guild who has a lantern and we're all following them around. We went to the elves and the fae, which were down this like creek with like light up flowers everywhere, like and vines, and it was very mystical, and like there was almost a fog over it. It was so cool. And these fae are all standing there, and also a lot of the fae are like women and like non-binary people and like, you know, femme dudes and like
relinquishing your heritage strikes me as very very queer.
Yeah, there's definitely there's a flavor in there that you're not finding in like the Vikings, for instance. Although 2 of the Vikings I was with were non-binary, so whatever. And I think they had a girlfriend or something who they were both dating, but the girlfriend got sick or something and couldn't come. But yeah, we got to the elves and they were like doing this really long ritual that couldn't be interrupted, and we waited forever, but the ritual went on and on and on, which is so on brand for elves to just be like too caught up in their own like mysticism to even notice that their guests have arrived. So we just left. We went to the Romans.
Wait, hold on. What was the ritual like?
I have no idea. I couldn't even see it. It couldn't be viewed by me. I wasn't allowed. But I know that one guy, one of the furries who was in my guild, was like really pumped because he got Fae touched the other day, which I couldn't really figure out what that meant, but I think it meant the Fae gave him something, and like I think the Fae gave him something that let him start being a furry.
Nice.
Because he was like, yeah, I got this tail after I got Fae touched, and I was like, what is that about? And he's like, oh well, now I can kind of be a raccoon like if I want sometimes. I was like, okay, great, that's so great. Yeah, then we went to the Romans. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, hell yeah, fuck yeah,
hell furries. Yeah, I think there was some. I didn't see like. I saw some like goat people kind of thing, and I saw some deer people. So that was cool. Yeah, and then I went to the Romans with them all, and the Romans weren't home, but all their fires were. And I can't believe this place is not shut down because there's no electricity, so people just have torches galore and campfires, but they just leave their fires going all the time. So we like go to the Romans, there's 1 million flames and not one person, so we're like, okay, we guess we gotta go. So yeah, then we ended up going to the concert at the tavern. Toby and I jigged our asses off so hard that people for the rest of the night were coming up to us and being like, I saw you guys jigging at the tavern, which they were playing like medieval music, like you can imagine the type. And we're just jigging for our lives. And then we did go to we didn't go to the Bastard Sons, which was the other Vikings, because apparently it was like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and they were partying. Everyone was already sloshed. Yeah, but on the last day, everyone was so generous. And like, originally I came into the LARP like not knowing what to expect. I thought like maybe people would be like, nerdy or awkward, or like I wouldn't make any friends. But like immediately someone adopted me and everyone was so nice. They gave us gifts. When I came back from battles, they gave me a fur stole. And they gave Toby the helmet that he was wearing, which was really expensive and handmade by metal. And they gave him like a leather pouch. And like, they also gave him this necklace that he was like, the imagery is actually too questionable and I won't wear this. It was like a Thor's hammer.
Oh, nice.
So he was like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I know you guys are Vikings, but like, this isn't it.
Did you actually end up spending any of your like script? What was it called?
Solar. No, we didn't end up spending it, but it's apparently a running joke in the community that the most Solar. It's Toby. One second.
Toby's here.
Toby's here. Wait. I'll get thoughts on this too.
Yeah. Actually, can we take 2 seconds for a pee break?
Yeah, you can take a pee break.
Okay, I'm back. What's up? Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Toby. What's your favorite animal?
Raccoon.
Welcome to RATURDAY NIGHT, by the way. Also, sick choice.
What'd you say?
Welcome to RATURDAY NIGHT. Wait, okay. Do you want to be... Me and Twoey were recording something for my show.
No,
Do you want to...
I wanted to interrupt you very briefly, but I'm leaving now.
Oh, you're leaving?
I'm leaving. I just
okay.
stopped by to tell her I love you. But also I won't talk about that thing last night, but I hope to see you at the next one, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, cool. Do you know what we're talking about that huge LARP you went to? Do you not have time to stick around?
Yeah, I can spare a few minutes to talk about
Yes.
I can always spare a few minutes to talk about the LARP.
Yeah, the LARP was legend. I just talked about how we jigged our asses. The backstab.
Yeah, we probably killed like 300, maybe 400 people just between the two of us.
Yeah, for a while at the beginning, Toby was like he was my shield, and I stood behind him.
Shield maiden. Yeah.
Yeah, he guarded me, but then quickly that disappeared, and we would only see each other.
To be honest, I got kind of bored because nobody was attacking you, and I was
it's true.
What am I doing here? You know.
Well, also maybe I didn't want to be protected by you. Maybe I wanted to be my own hero.
Yourself, yeah.
Yeah, but I would see him at the respawn station.
I died a lot.
did I tell you I got healed also once? And which was just like a guy came up to me and put his hand on my shoulder and was like, "Are you injured?" I was like, "Yes." And he took out a timer that was like for 1 minute and did this really long speech that was like, "Go forth, but if you shall die, your mother does not weep, for you have died as a warrior." And it like after the whole speech was done, he was just like, "You can go."
That's crazy because like I do the same when I'm working as a nurse. That's the same thing that we say to everyone as well.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
good thing.
All right, Toby, what was your favorite part of the LARP? I know time is limited, so we'll give you the floor.
It was me as a unarmored guy except for my helmet, and I had a shield and a sword, and I came upon a Frenchman deep in the woods who just had a massive two-handed sword, and we gave each other quick salutations, and then I bum rushed him and pushed him to the ground, and I beat him to death, and he's still there. But it was great. It felt really good. Like I really don't bring a fucking big sword to the woods. You know, if I have like one message to the listeners, I would say like if you're gonna go to the woods, don't bring a big sword. Bring a little one.
That's interesting. What are the advantages a big sword has over, or sorry, a small sword has over a big sword?
Well, a big sword looks fucking sick, so I'll grant you that. Like that's the main thing. But you can't swing it in the woods, in the little trees. Like he couldn't swing it because it was too dang big.
Yeah, I guess that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Great tip for the listeners. Do not bring a big sword somewhere where you cannot swing a big sword.
Yeah. Maybe we can have like a recurring segment, amateur LARP tips from like just us that has been to one LARP.
I mean, do you plan on going back?
Who are actual LARPers are gonna
They're gonna come and fucking kill me with big swords.
Yeah, because we're talking under us. We actually don't know anything about LARP.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, your address is on screen right now, so they will find you and like hunt you down and kill you.
Perfect.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, bye, Ratty. I'm gonna go. Bye, Twoey. I love you.
Love you too.
Bye, Toby.
Bye.
Wow.
Good luck.
What a great special guest.
I know, isn't that so fun?
Yeah.
Isn't that the best special guest ever?
Mm-hmm. We left off talking about no one actually had you spend any of your Solar? Solar.
Yeah, it's a running joke that most Solar is in the hands of children because there are kids who hustle their asses off at Bicoline and they mostly sell soap in like one of the towns.
Mm-hmm.
There's Old Town and New Town. You'll see the kids in New Town being like, "Do you want soap?"
Soap's a good
and then
thing
they sell
to
it to you for Solar. Oh, and there's also, I think, honestly, I think this might be a good place for foot fetishists because there were these two guys who were giving, it's not really clear what Solar actually buys you in the game universe. I know the population cards like give you access to land in the online game, which has implications in the real life game, but I don't know about the Solar. But these two guys were giving foot massages for Solar and they were there all day and night. I was like, you're not doing that unless you love feet.
Yeah. Foot fetish marathon, jeez.
Yeah, they were just like getting everybody's feet. And there's only 5 Solar, which everybody has.
They must be like making bank too. They
probably have Solar Bank. Absolutely.
They take that fucking foot money, they go to the foot club, spend it on foot strippers.
Yeah, for real.
Or they stick their feet through the wall. Cool. That's so cool. Good for them.
Yeah.
Well, sick.
It was sick. And then we came home to Toronto. What the hey?
Yeah. Your hero's journey lasted longer
it was
than
heroic.
Expected. Give us some takeaways. What have you learned from your journey?
What have I learned from my journey? Let me look at my list. I did make one.
Did you write any poetry? That was kind of the point.
That was the point. I'm going to do it now.
Okay, sick.
We're going to do it in September.
We'll have you back on when the poetry book is finished. We'll get some samples.
Yeah, for real. I learned that if it's no trouble, people often do want to give what they can. And I learned that I think couples with fulfilling lives are more likely to stay in love. And I saw this with a bunch of the people who I met and stayed with who had like really eccentric and interesting like paths and stories. And they all seemed like when you're enamored with life, it's easy to be enamored with people. Mm-hmm. That was nice to see. I do carry with me what Corey said about thinking of giving as title and thinking about like never taking advice from someone who hasn't done it. And instead, when I'm thinking about doing something, looking for who has done it and who's good at it, and then asking for their experiences before making my assessments of what I think is possible. Something Rafiq said stayed with me, who was one of the tall ship sailors I stayed with in Mahone Bay. He is like in his mid 30s. I think he's like 36 or something now, but he definitely passes for like a university student, and he continues to hitchhike all the time. In like all kinds of different countries and places where he had like shares no common language with like the people that he's staying or traveling with. And a lot of times people who pick him up say things like, this is something really nice to do when you're young. And like, I'm glad you're doing this like at this age. And he just kind of keeps his mouth shut about the fact that he's like in his mid to late 30s. And he said, basically, I'm going to tell you a secret. You don't have to be young. You can do this forever. And I really liked hearing that, because I think people often imagine that like adventure or like risk is something that's like reserved for youth. But that was disproven to me many times over this trip, meeting a lot of people who at all ages prioritize like seeking in the world as something important to them, and have made that happen at every year of their life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good lessons.
Yeah.
Twoey, is there anything else you want to talk about before I let you go?
Anyone hit me up who wants to do this, and I'll help you. Yeah. You can do it. And I hope that this journey has been as hopeful for you as it has been for me, because it was very hope restoring. I did go 1v1 with a lot of my demons on this trip. And they say that anyone who goes on a long bike trip like this is working through something. And if you don't think you are, you'll find out what it is on the trip. And I definitely did. But I feel like it was like the best possible thing I could have done for my health and my like growth, was literally just sit my ass down and ride that bike.
Hell yeah. I love that. Thank you, Twoey.
Thank you for listening. I know this was a long one because we haven't spoken in like a month.
Well, no, yeah, I know. I've been doing my tour and everything, which I'll tell you what, we'll cut to the live feed now, and you'll interview me. That's not going to happen.
Whoa.
This is going out on its own. This is a special episode.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Aww.
It's the last segment of Checking In with Twoey.
Oh, thank you.
Or
it's not called Roadhead?
Yeah, it's called Roadhead. I forgot. It's called Roadhead.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into Roadhead.
And you guys got to meet Toby, too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cute.
We had a special guest. Oh my
special guest, Toby Raccoon.
Holy moly. Different to Toby Bunny, who is blind in both eyes now. That's a bummer note to end on.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Oh yeah, I have to do this. Whoop. Bye-bye. Oh my god. Wow. Twoey's Hero's Journey, finally complete. So, stick around. We're going to raid Paula Brady. So, stick around for that. Everybody go raid. We're gonna go watch Paula. And I'm not gonna be here anymore. Bye-bye. I love you.